recommendation from the Prophet ﷺ. The topic that I want to share from you today, and alhamdulillah, during the summer, we're very lucky to have our youth with us. We're very lucky to have these young, beautiful faces with us that we don't get to see the rest of the year, most of the rest of the year, because they're in school. So for those parents who have school-age kids that are unable to come to Salat al-Jum'ah during their academic year, at least bring them during the summer break, during the breaks, so they can be a part of Salat al-Jum'ah. Even if they're not reached the age of balagh and they're still not required to come for Salat al-Jum'ah, bring them anyway, so they can experience it, and so they can make the habit so that when they are required to do it, they will continue that, inshallah. So the topic, I think, is beneficial to all of us, but also in particular as a reminder for my young brothers and sisters. And the ayat that I want to share with you from Surah Al-Talaq, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ وَمَنْ يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ بَالِغُ أَمْرِهِ قَدْ جَعَلَ اللَّهُ لِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدْرًا. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-Talaq, whoever has taqwa of Allah, and taqwa can be translated in many different ways. Sometimes people say fear of Allah is adequate, but really it's somebody who protects himself from displeasing or disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whoever has that taqwa, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make a way out for him and will provide for him from places that he doesn't even imagine, places he didn't even think. So think about it. Think about a situation where you're in trouble, you're in a jam, some problem. Maybe it's, I don't have enough money to pay my rent this month. Maybe it's something, my boss is mad at me, I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job. Whatever, some problem that may come to you, an argument with your spouse, or your children are getting in trouble at school, or car broke down, something. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that if you have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then He will find a way out for you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide a way out for you, and then He will provide from you from where you didn't even imagine. So you thought you were going to pay your rent from your paycheck, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may find a different way for you that you didn't expect. So this is a principle that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sharing with us, and we'll think about this in more detail. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala follows it up by telling us that whoever yatawakkal ala Allah, whoever has tawakkul of Allah, meaning that he is solely relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he puts his reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, then what is the result for that person? So we said if the person has taqwa, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will find a way out and will provide for him. He doesn't need to worry about it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide for him from places he didn't even think it would come from. And the person who has tawakkul ala Allah, فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is adequate for him, is enough for him. This is really beautiful. This is really beautiful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, whoever has tawakkul, whoever relies solely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's all he needs. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sufficient for him. Inna Allah balighu amrih, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever he has decided is going to happen. There's no question, no doubt. It's going to happen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in charge, of course, of everything. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made for everything, likulli shay, everything. It's apportioned time and manner, and it's a way that it's going to take place. This is the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His qadr. So what does it mean when we say kulli shay, everything? Well, you say, well, you know, what about my studies and my schooling and have to get this degree and whatever? That's part of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's qadr. It's taken care of. What about my job? My boss is mad at me. If I go for Salat al-Jum'ah, my boss is going to give me a hard time. Brother, who's your boss? The guy who signs your paycheck, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Who's the boss of your boss? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already decreed everything. Your wealth, your provisions, everything, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in charge. So how can we disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or displease Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to please His creation? Do we think that our provisions are coming from our boss and this and that? Now, when we talk about the concept of tawakkul, of relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I think all of us would agree what this is not. So let me tell you what it's not, and you'll agree with me, I'm sure. Tawakkul does not mean that you sit in your home and you put your hands up to the sky and you pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to rain gold down on you, and you don't have to get a job and you don't have to work, and this is not tawakkul. You have to do your part. You do your part first, and then you rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the result. But you have to do your part. And the scholars have told us that not doing your part, just relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and asking Him to do everything for you, is in a way is insulting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you the ability to do your part, and you decided not to do it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you the physical ability, the health, the intelligence, ability to go get a job and work and get the paycheck. He gave you that ability. So if you just sit at home and you don't work and you expect the money to come from the sky, this is not tawakkul. This is not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is referring to. So we have to do our part, but then we rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the result. Now, the reason this is important, especially for our youth, and again I come back to our youth, is because this concept, unfortunately, can be misunderstood and has been the cause of destruction of many people. Many Muslims, their destruction has come from a misunderstanding of this concept of relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because there's something they really, really want, or they really, really need, and they pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they make dua, and they may stay up at night and whatever they do, and then maybe they don't get that thing. And then they begin to question Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They begin to question their deen. They begin to question whether this is true. And this is not just for youth, this is for adults too, but particularly for the youth to understand this concept. Because when our kids are growing up, of course we teach them, if you need something, you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide for you. So, for example, I'm sure you know examples you can think of yourself, but somebody really, really wants so-and-so job. This promotion or so-and-so job he applied for, he really wants it. He prays so hard, stays up at night and makes dua sincerely to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he doesn't get the job. Does that mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't listen to him? Does that mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't like him? Maybe he thinks, oh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hates me. He didn't answer my dua. It's not the case. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a wa'ad in the Quran, it's true. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises you something in the Quran, it's true. You don't have to question it. It's true. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you that if you rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ, then He's adequate for you, that's all you need is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's true. You don't have to question it. But then what happened? Why didn't I get that job that I was praying so hard for? Or sometimes you see, our young brothers and sisters, they fall in love with somebody and say, I have to marry this one sister. It can't be anyone else. This is the only sister on the earth that I can marry. This one. And it doesn't work out. She's not interested in him. Family says no, something. Doesn't work out. But he prayed and he made dua and he stayed up at night praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he questions his faith. He says, what happened? Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't answer my dua? I'm sure you know stories like this that have happened. So what's going on? What's going on is that unfortunately, we like to sometimes understand things in the way that we like to understand things, but we don't want to understand things in the proper way. So, unfortunately, this is a little bit crude, but I think the youth will understand what I'm talking about. Sometimes there are people who think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is like a genie. You know it's a genie. The lamp, they rub the lamp and the genie comes out. 3 wishes, anything you want. Is this what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to us? Astaghfirullah. Of course not. Do we just ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for 3 wishes or however many wishes and we just make dua and we pray and then we expect that this is going to happen? We're going to get whatever we want? Is this how we treat Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is this our expectation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is this what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us in the Quran? Is this the promise that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us? That just ask whatever you want and I'll make sure you get that exact thing. You want to marry that sister? No problem. I'll take care of it. You'll marry that sister. Is that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us? No. Part of tawakkul, relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is trusting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Trusting the judgment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Trusting that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows better than you and me. He knows what's good for us better than we know ourselves. So if somebody says that I have to marry this one sister, it can't be anyone else. It has to be this one. I love her more than anyone else. I can't accept any other person on the face of the planet. And it doesn't happen. If you were sincere in making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it's very likely that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected you from something that could have been harmful for you. And with time, you'll find another person to marry who will be better for you than the other one. Same thing with the job. You really wanted so-and-so job. You didn't get the job. So you kept applying and you kept putting your resume, and another job came that was even better. If you would have taken the first job, you wouldn't have applied for anything else. You wouldn't have put your resume online. The other job never would have come. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had something better in store for you. Trusting in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, trusting in the judgment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the central idea of tawakkul. It goes hand in hand. They go together. Trusting that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what's better for us and that we are pleased with the judgment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and whatever He gives us. This is true tawakkul. So the understanding of when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you, وَمَنْ يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ, this doesn't mean that whoever has reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is adequate for him, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to give him everything he wants. No. The person who relies on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, huwa hasbuh, means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is enough to satisfy me. I'm pleased with the judgment and the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm pleased to have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as my Lord. This is true tawakkul. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I prayed for this or I prayed for that and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me something different, it's okay. Because I still have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I still have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is enough for me. Whether I got the job or I married the sister or I got the car that I wanted or whatever it was, I'm okay with it. It doesn't bother me. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is adequate for me. I'm pleased with the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So again, to remind us, all of us, because all of us will have challenges in our life where we will turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves that His servants will turn to Him and no one else when they are in need. And of course, there are better ways of making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than asking for a car or a house or whatever. But yes, He wants us to ask for those things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to ask for everything that we need, but with the proper understanding that we rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we accept His decision if it comes to us or not. But there are more important things, of course, that we can make dua for. We can ask for hidayah, for guidance. We can ask for our children to grow up good Muslims, and we can ask for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our deeds, the fast of Ramadan, for example, and our qiyam and everything else. Many good things we can make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for. But again, I remind myself and I remind all of you, and especially our youth, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not a genie. Astaghfirullah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not rub the lamp, 3 wishes. Doesn't work that way. You have to trust in the judgment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and trust that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has for you is what's best for you. Sometimes something bad will happen to you. And you'll say, why did this bad thing happen to me? I'm a good Muslim. I fast during Ramadan and I pray 5 times a day and I make effort to do this and that. Why did this bad thing happen to me? Look at this other bad person that's, this person doesn't even believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he's doing so well and he got the job that I wanted and I didn't get, and maybe something bad happens to us. Does this mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forsaken us? Again, part of tawakkul is that we trust in the judgment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether it's good or whether it's bad. Whether it's good or whether it's bad. Because when something bad happens to us, believe it or not, it can be good for us. It can make us better. It can make us stronger. How can we tell? How can we tell if something bad happens to you? How can you tell that it was actually good for you? Here's a beautiful calculation that you can do. Anytime something good happens to you, it could be good for you, it could be bad for you. So let's say that you all of a sudden become very wealthy. You inherit a huge amount of money. You think that's good for you, but it might not be. Maybe bad for you. That may lead you to some problems. some fitna, some haram. Something bad happens to you. You lose your job, for example. Someone in your family dies. You're sad. So here's a nice calculation that you can do. When something good happens to you or something bad happens to you, how can you truly know whether it was good or bad for you? Did it bring you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Did that event, that occurrence that happened to you, that experience, did it bring you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Something bad happens to you. Someone in your family dies. Maybe a child. This is one of the worst things that can happen in your life, is that you lose a child. Maybe you lost your job, maybe you lost your wealth, you lost whatever. On the surface, if you asked anyone, if you did a poll, they would tell you this is something bad. But did it bring you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? If it brought you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then actually that was good for you. Because the reward that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared for you from being patient during that difficult time is going to far outweigh whatever it was that you lost in this life. And the opposite is true as well. When something good happens to you, you want to know, is this really good for me? Or maybe this is a test. Did it bring you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? If you were grateful when the good thing happened and it brought you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then alhamdulillah, this is a beautiful gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if something good happens to you, again, on the surface, something seems like it's good for you, and then it ends up taking you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then this is a disaster. You don't want that thing. You prayed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala night and day to get so-and-so job. And then maybe you get the job, and then now you get so arrogant that, oh, look me, I'm the boss of all of this and that, and all these people are working for me, and you start to oppress those people working under you, and you make so much money, and you start spending it on haram. That job's not good for you. You thought so. Everybody told you so. But that job's not good for you. That's a disaster for you. So this is the true understanding of tawakkul that we should have on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And again, a reminder for myself, and especially for our young brothers and sisters as they're growing up in this deen of Islam, to understand this concept and to understand this connection that we should have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this higher level of relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than simply going to the Burger King and making an order at the window and then expecting to pick up our hamburger. This is not the proper relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفر الله إنه غفور رحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. For those who are joining us late, at the beginning of the khutbah, I simply reminded myself and all of you that we are now 2 weeks after Eid, halfway into the month of Shawwal, and the Prophet ﷺ strongly encouraged us to make it as much of an effort as possible to fast the 6 days during the month of Shawwal. So do your best to fast 6 days during the month of Shawwal. And the Prophet ﷺ told us it's as if that we fasted perpetually, that we fasted continuously the entire year if we fast those 6 days. So take advantage of that opportunity, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for all of us. So brothers and sisters, to conclude these short thoughts from Surah Al-Talaq, it comes in a surah that is about divorce. Talaq means divorce. It's the surah named after divorce. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this surah is addressing the concept of divorce, and then we have these beautiful promises from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for those who have taqwa and for those who have tawakkul in this surah. Because one of the most difficult, as you know, one of the most difficult challenges that anyone can go through in their life, not only for the couple who are divorcing, but for the entire family. Divorce is a very difficult challenge that people will come across, couples as well as, again, the entire family around them, the community. It's a challenge for even people who are not related. Because imagine when two people get divorced, what happens? Everyone, the gossiping begins. Well, maybe he did this to her, and maybe she did this to him. This is, brothers and sisters, this is ghiba and namima. We can't do this. This is haram. So divorce is a big fitna for any community, and especially for the couple, for the family. And so these principles that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about regarding taqwa and tawakkul, this idea that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make a way out, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide. So when the man is just to his divorcing wife, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide for him. He doesn't need to worry. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if you rely on him, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is enough for you. You don't need anything else. These principles are coming in this surah, but they apply to any situation, of course. So all of us will go through challenges. Some of us, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us, some of us will go through divorce. Some of us will go through death in our families. Some of us will lose children, which is one of the biggest difficulties. Some of us will not be able to have children. Some of us will lose our jobs. Some of us will lose our wealth. Some of us will find ourselves in very difficult situations. But these short ideas, these short promises from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I remind you and remind myself that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you a promise in the Quran, gives you a promise, you can take it to the bank. You can take it to the bank. So when we have taqwa on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we have tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, just to remind you, it doesn't mean that you're going to get what you wanted. It doesn't mean that you're going to get what you thought was good for you. But what it means is that when you have a proper relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you feel that love and caring and closeness with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then no matter what happens to you, you're okay. You're satisfied. You're calm. You're at peace. You know you'll get through it with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a beautiful gift that is reserved for the believer. As the Prophet ﷺ told us, that this is the status, that only the believer is in this status, in this situation. That when something good happens to him, he's thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when something bad happens to him, he's patient. This beautiful situation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards you in both situations, this is only for the believer. Imagine all of the stressful times that we'll go through in our lives and how it will affect your physical health, your mental health, your relationships with people around you. But it doesn't have to. When your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is strong, you can weather those storms and get through much more easily. And this is the biggest, most beautiful gift that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can give us in this life. Of course, the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the next life is much greater. But in this life, that satisfaction, that comfort that comes from your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most beautiful thing that a believer, only a believer, can have. So I encourage you to remember these when you have difficult times, and also when good things come to you. I remind you of these ayat from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and these principles that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us in the Quran. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وأقيم الصلاة